What's up everyone, and welcome to another one of my follow along YouTube tutorials. In this tutorial, I'm not going to lie, you're going to see the photo I took and I totally messed this up. I was guiding, I had guests at the back of the vehicle, I was interacting, and as I was driving we saw a giraffe turn its body to the side perfectly with the light. Beautiful golden light in the afternoon, the beautiful sunset in the background. You had this pink sky and these beautiful blue colors, and my settings were totally off. So I'm going to show you how to bring this back to life using Lightroom Classic, and also trying to turn it into something more artistic, something like a more fine art print, so to say. So let's get into it. All right, everyone, so this is the photo we're going to be editing today. And this is a photo of a giraffe that I took in my Decoy game reserve. Now, I was very preoccupied with driving the game viewer and interacting with my guests, so as you can see, my camera settings were not right. I was driving down the road and this giraffe turned side on against the sun, and you had this beautiful golden light on the giraffe, and you can see in the background the sky was quite blue and it had like this pinkish hues on the clouds. It was an incredibly beautiful sight to see, but nonetheless it happened so quickly I just could not sort my camera settings out. I took the photo and it came out like this, very dark. Now luckily my Sony camera has very good dynamic range, so there would be some detail and color detail even in these shadows. And this is what we're going to use Lightroom Classic to bring that out and turn this into something visually appealing or like a fine art print. But first things first, what I want to do is I would like to go to the basics panel and just up the exposure, just to see what I'm working with, if there are any colors I can see and how bright it is before we start losing too much detail or the background starts flaring out. Now this actually looks quite good. I can see there's some slight bluish hues in the sky, and you can see some slight pink on the clouds, which we are going to try and pull out also using Lightroom Classic. But first let's just prepare the photo a bit. So if we zoom in, we can see there's a lot of graining, and all that graining is just going to make the photo look a little bit harsh and a little bit rough, and I don't want that. I want a soft image full of beautiful colors. So just close the basics panel, and what we're going to do now is go to lens corrections. We are going to click remove chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections. So enable profile corrections basically just de-warps the photo, and if you remove chromatic aberration, which helps with high contrast shots like this, the dark subject against the bright sky, where you see often these color fringes around the edges. So for example, around the mane of the giraffe, the light might split and you'll see this bluish, the greenish, purplish fringing of light. I didn't see any of it on here, but it's just a habit, what I do, of clicking on remove chromatic aberration. Because if you use it and there is chromatic aberration, it removes it, and if you click on it and there's no chromatic aberration, it doesn't change anything on the image. So don't worry too much about that. Now that we've de-warped the photo a bit, I would like to get rid of all the graining. So let's go to the details panel, and if we zoom in, you can see a lot of the graining. But a nice trick I like to use to see how much graining there really is to click on masking, hold down options if you're using a Mac, or Alt if you're using Windows, and start pulling the slider to the right. So let's keep it on 20. And you can see all those white dots. That is the graining. So if I had to start sharpening this photo, the edges of the grain would also get more detail, making them more pronounced. And that will look really bad on this photo. So we want to remove that. And how are we going to do that? We're going to do that by clicking denoise. So it takes about a minute. Right, now that it's finished denoising, it takes about a minute or two. Then the AI reads the photo and it removes as much noise as possible. So let's click again on mask and hit options. Now you can see I've kept the mask on 20, and you can see there's much less graining, which is what we want. And now everything that's in white, even those small little dots, if I'm going to add sharpening now, all of that will be affected by it. So what I want to do is carry on pulling the masking slider to the right until only the giraffe is white, and especially mostly the edges where the hair is. So I think we can leave it on 55, and then we can start adding some sharpening. I usually just put it up to about 65, and let's zoom in and look. You can see there is now almost no graining, and there's a lot of more detail in the hair. You can see this mane is looking really good, and the colors and the light on the giraffe is very good. There are some darker patches on the face, but we could potentially dodge and burn that a little bit later to make it look better. Zooming out, what we're going to do now is we're going to remove these branches in the bottom left. And how are we going to do that? We're going to go to the remove panel and we're going to use heal. So by using the healing, you just have to basically brush over the branches, and Lightroom is basically just going to blend that section in with the other part of the photo, and it's going to make it look very natural. So you can see it's been blended in pretty well. The branches are gone. And now what I want to do is I'm going to start adding some other adjustments, but I'm going to use the masks because we've got this high contrast subject in the foreground and a very light background. Doing anything in the basics panel, like cooling anything down or warming anything, is going to universally affect the giraffe and the sky, and I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is go to the masking. I'm going to click subject, and now that the subject, so you can see the whole subject is in red. What I want to do now is right click and invert mask 1. Now the subject will not be affected by what I'm going to do next, and that's what I want. It's quite an easy and unique way of using the masking by choosing your subject to make sure your whole subject is red, and then also inverting it to make sure that you don't touch the subject with the next adjustments that you're going to do in the background, especially if you have a portrait like this. So what I do want to do is I want to cool the background down a bit to bring those bluish colors out of the sky. I think that should be fine. And now what I want to do is I want to click and select subject again. Just add a little bit more exposure to the giraffe. Make it stand out. You can see now it looks like it's got that golden glowing light on it. Don't want to add too much exposure. That should be fine. Maybe some slight contrast just to give those darker features, make it a bit more pronounced. But what we're going to do now, what I want to do to try and get these pinkish colors out of the clouds, is we're going to go add another mask, and we're going to go to a linear gradient, and we will pull this up from the bottom and then just to about there over the clouds. Now you can see everything in red below these stripes will be affected, and the giraffe is also red. I don't want that. So what I'm going to say now is minus. I'm going to say minus select subject, and it's going to remove subject from your selection. And what I can do then is very easily just go to the tint and start pulling it to the right to add some of that magenta color back into the clouds. It's a very fine adjustment, but that is looking quite nice. So it's not exactly as I saw it in the wild, but I want to make it quite a high contrast image with the giraffe looking good in the foreground being the dark subject, and then the nice colorful background. Let us add another linear gradient. This time we're going to go from the top to the bottom, and again what we're going to do is we're going to say minus select subject, and what we're going to do now is just carry on cooling it down slightly. This is a very easy way of adding blue to the sky, is just cooling it down. So I want a little bit of separation to where the clouds are and where the open sky was. Now that we've done the masking and some adjustments, let us go hit backslash on your keyboard, and it will show you a before, and if you release it, it will show you the after. You can see how dark this image was and how it is looking now. But I'm not totally done yet. What I want to do is I just want to add some more light to the face, especially around the eye and on the forehead, because you can see the ossicone is casting a bit of a shadow on the forehead. So let's go to the masking again, hit the plus, say brush, and let us zoom in. What I want to do is maybe just take the exposure up to about 20, and then just start painting in where you want some more light. So as I paint very slowly, just going down the edges where it's quite dark, especially on the face. And I don't see much of a difference yet, so we're going to add some more exposure. You can add it slowly. Let's just take it all the way to the right. Now you can see where I've painted where I want it to be a little bit darker. If you take it all the way to the right, you can see how it affects, how the exposure affects it. So let's not do that. Let's take it a little bit down. Just leave it at about there. Slightly warm it up. Just make it blend in well. And now you can see the giraffe's face is bright, it's in focus. You can see all the details on the face. They do have quite a dark eye, and you can see the sunset's reflection in the subject's eye, which is quite nice. But you're not going to be able to brighten this much more just because it is so dark already. It's not going to help much if you try. Let's zoom out and let's hit the backslash key again. Now you can see what we had to work with. We had a warped image with branches that were distracting, and it was very, very, very dark. And what we have now is a high contrast image of a giraffe, beautiful colors, all in focus. There's not any more grain. It is looking good in the golden light, and you've got those soft magenta blue colors in the background. So it's a very contrasting image. I think one thing what I can do more with this image is just crop it slightly. You crop it like this, bring the top down a bit, just to box it up a little bit more. Let's see what that looks like. And that's looking quite good to me. All the emphasis is on the subject, and this image looks quite good. Now this you can use for social media, or you can print it and try to sell it, but I do enjoy making these high contrast kind of images and bringing an image that's got no depth to it back to life. Hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much.